So how do we deal with this climate change? What are some things that you could do as an individual or as a nation we could do in the United States? Well, the problem with this is that it's a global problem. So it's multiple nations. Kind of an example of tragedy of the commons. Who's going to manage the atmosphere? The effects will they'll last a long time, and it kind of takes a slow process to start. It's a long-term political problem, and politics likes to act for things now. They don't like to get things done for the future. Harmful and beneficial impacts of climate change are not spread evenly, so some places are affected more than others. And phasing out fossil fuels can really disrupt economies. Because are you going to switch? Are you going to make the $40,000 investment to purchase an electric car or something of alternative fuel? See, that's really hard to get people to do that kind of stuff. So if we look at an example here, you can kind of look at the system and the problem with it. So we have the extract of the oil in the trees, but oil and fossil fuels to produce energy, and then as that energy goes in, it can be used for raw materials or manufacturing purposes, and both of those emit carbon dioxide. Some can be recycled, and then waste management, and you have composing, and that also puts out carbon dioxide. And then you have landfilling, which takes up a lot of space and puts a lot of toxic chemicals potentially leaching into the ground and water supplies. Ways that we can sinks or emission offsets to get rid of them is plant more trees, avoid using fossil fuels, possibly carbon storage in the soil, also with combustion and composting, and avoid using fossil fuels. A lot of these stem back into avoid using fossil fuels and planting more trees. So those are some good ways to avoid the effects of global climate change. Just for this is out of the Miller book. I thought this was really good. Some preventions of global warming. Let's go here. Cutting fossil fuel use, shifting from coal to natural gas because natural gas burns more cleanly. Improving energy efficiency. That's a huge one. That's one that we can do now, is improving energy efficiency. So replacing incandescent light bulbs with compact fluorescent, because those are better. Shifting to renewable energy sources. Transferring energy efficiency and renewable energy source technologies to developing countries, because those are the ones that are now starting to emit so much more. Reducing deforestation, so you can promote photosynthesis, and using more sustainable agriculture and forestry practices. Urban sprawl. What is urban sprawl? Yeah, that's where you grow out, like the suburbs. All right, more of that causes more transportation and more pollution and worse health effects, and causing more smart growth, right, where you build up instead of out. Reducing poverty, which will going along with these, because you'll provide more jobs, and slowing population growth. How do you think you could slow population growth? If you think back to it, the main way of slowing population growth is education of women. The education of women provides them with jobs, economic opportunities, so therefore they work longer and they aren't seen as breeders of babies. Now, if we don't do prevention, which usually we're not very good at, we have to do remediation or cleanup. So we could remove CO2 from smokestacks in vehicles. You could store carbon by planting more trees. Sequester CO2 deep underground, which we'll look at carbon storage here in a second. Sequester CO2 in soil by using no-till cultivation and task cropping out of production. Cropland out of production. Sequester CO2 in deep ocean. Repair leaky natural gas pipelines and facilities. And use animal feeds that reduce CO2 or methane, CH4 emission. Remember, cow burps. Greenhouse gas. So those are some ways to clean or prevent global warming and clean up. Here they are again, just to recap. Energy efficiency, it's very important. Renewable energy, lower carbon emitting fuels, better forestry and agriculture, plant more trees. carbon capture and storage, which we'll look at in a second, and then cap and trade, and that has to do with the Kyoto Protocol. And the Kyoto Protocol is an internationally signed document to reduce CO2 emissions. Okay. Carbon capture and storage. So normally with a power plant, we burn our fossil fuels and put those fossil fuels into the atmosphere. Well, why don't we just put that carbon back into the ground where we got it from? And that's what carbon storage is. So you pull it out through the process of mining, drilling, there's the word, drilling, and when you use it, that carbon dioxide then is pumped back to a similar well, and it's pumped just back down into the ground where it's stored there. Carbon capture and storage. Duh. Seems smart, doesn't it? But what do you think an issue is with this? Yes, it's very expensive. It's very expensive to do carbon capture and storage. So who's going to want to make that emission if we can just cheaply keep burning while we make everybody think that global warming is fake or a myth?